Ready? And you said I can't move, right? I have to stay here. Sorry, guys. I was planning to do a dance routine, but can't move from here. So let's get started. I got a lot to cover. I do want to say that we do a lot of these presentations quite often. So I'm going to speed up because I do have another event I have this afternoon I need to be at. But please stay in touch with me. I do a lot of virtual presentations, and I'm also available. So let's kind of go through this. Let's see, government contracting. So if you've never considered doing business with the federal government, this class is basically for you. This is just a little bit of information on me. I've been with the SBA for over 24 years. Total government career, 32 years. I started out with the Navy, ended up with the SBA, and I loved the SBA and eventually stayed with the SBA. So I'm not going to cover our mission because she did a great job. Bridget did a fantastic job on talking about SBA's programs and services. Primarily this first slide, in a nutshell, you know, people overlook at doing business with the federal government because they think it's difficult, but they're not actually seeing that there's a lot of support available for small businesses for you to venture into doing business with the federal government. You know, why do business with the federal government? We're the largest buyer of goods and services in the world. If you think about it, and I just did a presentation recently, and somebody said, you know, how large is the federal government? If you think about it, you know, we provide services all over the world. We have naval facilities that we have to support, so, you know, we're buying for them. And then we have other federal agencies, they're also, okay, overseas, and we have to provide support as well. So, you know, we're trying to support all our agencies, and so I kind of list here, you know, somebody asked me one time, you know, does the government buy, I remember he said painting, and I thought it was, you know, paint. And he said, no, artist kind of work. And I said, I really don't think so. And I said, but let me do a little bit of research. And so sure enough, I found out that there was a solicitation for somebody in the federal government buying artwork. So since that time, I said, you know what? I never say the government doesn't buy that. I always say, just take a look at what we buy, and then you'll know for sure that whether or not we're able to, you know, you're able to supply the government what it is that you have to offer, whether it's a product or a service. We do business with small business because small businesses are the backbone of the American economy. You guys keep us rolling, so we want to make sure we're able to provide the support. These are some just statistics as to why small businesses are important. Okay, and it's a win-win. It's win-win for the federal government as well as for small businesses. You have access to streams of revenues coming from the government, and certainly the government gets to work with small businesses who can also provide innovative ideas. Now, the set-aside programs, which is really the bulk of government contracting. And what we do is doing business with the federal government can be daunting, right? But the opportunities, in other words, competing with large businesses can be daunting and it can be difficult. And as a small business, you might be at a disadvantage. So the federal government, the Small Business Administration, basically implemented these set-aside programs. And so let me explain to you how they work. If you get certified, it's like driving, right? When you want to drive, if you want to drive a truck, you need a CDL license, right? If you need a motorcycle, you need another type of category of license. Well, it's kind of the same thing in the federal government. We're just doing these set-aside programs. If you get certified in one of these programs, then you're able to compete with other small businesses in that same category, which means now you're not competing with large businesses, you're competing with small businesses, okay? And it's a lot easier for you as a small business to be able to get a piece of the pie, so to speak. These goals are statutory. meaning by law, the federal agencies have to reserve a portion of their buys to do business with small businesses. And so the main category is 23% for small business. Okay, that's our main one. And for small business, you just have to self-certify yourself as a small business by registering in SAM. Okay? The next category is women-owned small business. And I'm not going to go into detail on all the eligibility criteria for all the programs because we do offer a monthly class. It's a 2-hour class where we go over the eligibility criteria for each one of the programs, how to apply the benefits, so on and so forth. But at least for this one, one of the main criteria for women-owned is it has to, the business has to be owned by at least 51% has to be owned by a woman or a combination of more than one woman. Okay, 51%. And then there's some other, again. Small disadvantaged business. Now, the small disadvantaged business includes also the 8A program, which is a business development program. Now, notice there that I have a 5% goal. So recently, under the Biden administration, as of December 2021, he increased this goal to 11%. And so the final goal increase here will be 15% by 2025. And this is good right now because there's a lot of work going on. Hub Zone is 3%. Service disabled veteran is 3%. Any opportunities between $10,000 and $350,000, which is a simplified acquisition, are automatically reserved for small businesses. One thing that I do want to say about this, and probably this is a better slide. This slide, I'm not going to go into detail into the numbers, but what I want you to see is a trend. And so each bar represents one of the small business categories or one of these certification programs, right? Small business is certified in any of these programs. And what I want you to see is the upward trend. All of them have an upward trend. All of them. Okay? Furthermore, we just had probably about a month ago our associate administrator or a deputy associate administrator for business development and government contracting in Washington call our district office here, and he wanted to do a visit, and he wanted to meet with the chambers of commerce, and his interest was to deliver an important information, and I'm going to sum it up to you here. Over the last 10 years, we're seeing an increase in set-aside opportunities for small business, totaling upwards of $50 billion. On the negative side, okay, we're seeing a decrease in the industry base, meaning there are less small businesses out there performing on government contracts, okay? So think about this. For a small business, this is good news, okay? Because if you want to venture into doing business with the federal government, this is the time for you. For the federal government, on the opposite side, this is bad because we need more small businesses, okay? So again, I think the bottom line here is his message was, our goal here is to try to promote that small businesses try to compete in federal contracting opportunities. And so how do we achieve that? We are implementing training sessions where you can learn everything you need to learn about government contracting, from proposal preparation to developing your own prize to contract administration. I mean, you name it. Anything available to help small businesses be competitive in the federal marketplace and be able to perform, right? Because the key here is performance. If you can't perform, you're not going to be able to get work, and you might be debarred from doing business with the federal government if you start a contract and you can't perform. So again, these are the better times. Here, I just want to cover really quickly that there are different levels in which the government buys. And if you don't want to spend years going around in circles and trying to figure out how this works, this is one of the best things you can learn. Why? I've had small businesses, really small businesses, that just wanted to do the smaller purchases, the micro purchases. And they didn't know that all they needed was a credit card, and then they needed to market directly to the federal agencies because these smaller opportunities are not posted in a general website like in SAMs. Okay, sometimes the agencies will post them themselves, or they'll have a distribution list, and you add your name to their distribution list, and then they send you what's coming in and what they need to buy. Okay, so understanding the different levels and how the government buys, it's important because it will save you from trying to figure out, okay, where is it that I go to find these opportunities, okay? So all the other opportunities you might be able to find in FedBizOps. FedBizOps, which is no longer FedBizOps, it's SAMs, because they merge into SAMs. Anything above $25,000 will be posted on, and I think you're going to cover that, right, Albert? Okay, so Albert will cover that. So these are, again, the purchasing levels. Marketing your business and identifying federal opportunities. First thing I tell small businesses is to explore the market. What does the market have for you? Do market research. Ask yourself, who buys what I have to offer, okay? And we have the websites, and I'm going to give them to you, I think, in the next slide. Federal Procurement Database System, which I think also merged into SAM. I always like to just type, Federal Procurement Database System and go into it and do a search based on your North American Industrial Classification Code. And you'll see on the left-hand side, the top 10 federal agencies buying that product. Furthermore, if you look further down, you can see what prime contractors are buying those products. So again, very important market research. That way you know what the market looks like for you, okay? Competition. Again, explore what kind of products or services. So if you're doing a specific type of product and you don't see a lot of demand for that product, then look for maybe something similar within, your product line that you can offer the federal government, or look at what the federal government is buying in larger quantities. And if that's something that aligns with your business model, then by all means, offer that. Pricing and regulations, again, one of the biggest challenges is that small businesses don't understand how to price their product. So we are offering, the SBA has a program called the 7J Technical and Management Assistance, and through that program, we're able to provide all this kind of training for small businesses that are interested in doing business with the federal government. Okay? Market research is basically your insight into what the government is buying, okay? Not only what the government is buying, but again, it's going to show you who's performing on those contracts, okay? Which is giving you some great insight, story here into, okay, who is doing it and how do I position myself to compete with the current incumbent who's holding that contract? So you're going to get a lot of information that you can use to, position yourself in a more competitive way. Okay. Again, this market research is number one, trying to identify the agency. If you could find in this market research a niche that you can fit into, I always tell small business, try to identify a niche. That's the easiest way. If you don't, that's okay. But if you can find a niche, that's the best way to come into the federal government. Understand areas of government spending. Again, you're going to see historically the demand for products and services. Use that to your advantage. And then know your competitors, which you're going to be able to get from this market research. Once you get who that contractor is, then visit their website. Okay, visit their website, see how they present themselves, what are their core competencies, okay? And again, you're trying to work yourself, find as much information as you can against about your competitors so that you can better position yourself when you're marketing directly to the federal government. And we're going to talk about marketing to the federal government. These are your websites to do your market research. Federal Procurement Database System is the main website. There is no charge to register for this website. You can register. It's free of charge. If you don't register, you can do an EC search. Now, EC search is going to give you a lot of information that might be a little bit more difficult to dissect. So I would always encourage you to register and then just do a query on the type of report you're trying to get. USA spending, its information is easier to read. Their information comes from the Federal Procurement Database System as well, so it's basically a dump. The beauty of USA spending is that it gives you graphs, so it's easier to kind of visualize and understand the information you're looking for. Okay? Now, in market research, you're going to need the details. Okay? You need the details. So maybe graphs aren't, but if you're trying to identify potentially, let's say in the United States, where most of our products are being purchased, then through a graph might be easier for you to see. Or where are most of the prime contractors being awarded these contracts, et cetera. Acquisition.gov is a great website to find procurement forecasts. Procurement forecast is the government's wish list of what they want to buy. And the reason why I always encourage small businesses to use the procurement forecast is because that is not public information in the sense that it's not out for bid yet. Okay? So you're able to see and pre-plan, okay, and better position yourself by seeing what the government is going to buy in the future and start marketing to the government earlier. Because you can convince the government, okay, to reserve an opportunity, let's say if you're women-owned, to do a women-owned set-aside, okay, where the opportunity or the forecast might list that, the contracting officer, the agency hasn't decided what vehicle to use. You, by marketing directly to the agency, might influence the agency to reserve it for competition for one of the certifications that you might hold, okay? So that's very important. Let's see if I can move this. Understanding who the customers are. There's different influencers in the federal government. The process of buying in the government entails different people, and it's good to understand who's a person that can bind or can basically sign the contract. Let me put it that way. I'm not going to, usually I go into a little bit more detail in explaining this, but what I want you to understand is that if you want to penetrate an agency, you might want to contact the small business specialist for that agency. Sometimes they call them OSDBU, which stands for Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization Specialist. That's why we call them OSDBUs, because it's just shorter. But these individuals are responsible for connecting you with the people within their agency that are purchasing what you have to offer, okay? They're in a better, I call them the gatekeepers. It's just my easiest way to describe them. Gatekeepers. Okay, what is it that you have to offer? Okay, I'm gonna give you the information for this division because this division is the one that purchases that. Or they might send you to GSA, and Albert will explain to you how GSA works. Ingredients to making a favorable impression. Like always, it's always important to make a good impression. Make sure that you have your business cards back and forward. If you could put your NAICS codes in the back of your cards, that would be very beneficial, as well as your DUNS number. So know what you should be putting in the front and in the back of your card. And if you don't know, that's the reason why we have these resource partners, PTAC, the Small Business Development Center. They're there to help you with this, okay? Be prepared with agency you are targeting. So do a little bit of market research on the agency. Look at the website. What's their vision? What's their mission? What's their goal? Okay? And start positioning yourself in a sense of how you're going to help the agency meet their goals. Okay? And provide them the product or the service that they need. Be prepared to deliver a concise elevator speech. Probably a 5 or 10 minute elevator speech is going to help tremendously. Sometimes federal agencies or the contracting officers who are usually, we're small business specialists, who you're going to be dealing with firsthand, have limited time. And they have a lot of people calling them, and everybody wants to meet with them. So the easiest way is to craft up an elevator speech, practice it, okay, where you're basically introducing your company and the most important aspect of the company. And if you're able to engage that contracting officer or small business specialist, they might call you back for an appointment and give you more time. So this is the reason why it's so important. Again, present your business card and certification, and have a capability statement. If you don't know what a capability statement is, we have the procurement center representatives that will help you put a capability statement together. But a capability statement in a nutshell is kind of a resume. What a resume is to you, capability statement is kind of the equivalent, but for a business. And that's the terminology that the contracting officers know. So it's important for you to familiarize yourself with this terminology if you're going to go into government contracting. Capability statement, again, as I said, is a kind of like a resume, proof of qualifications, and you can use it to introduce yourself. It can help you open doors, because usually it's a one page and it has all the information that you're going to need, okay, on the front and the back. Also, you have an electronic format, and as you're out there doing these marketing approach to the agencies, you can attach your capability statement to the agency and send it to them, okay? Yes? PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. There's one in, the one here covers 68 counties, and they're in Arlington. They're called Cross Timbers Procurement Technical Assistance Center. And they'll help you put one together. Actually, if you have one, they'll critique it for you and tell you how you can improve it. They do a really good job on that. Lastly, how to use it. You can use it to find yourself a prime or a teaming partner, or pursue opportunities as well with another small business through a joint venture. You can use it to respond to sources sought. Sources sought is the government's way of trying to identify how many small businesses are out there that could potentially be interested and willing to bid on a requirement, and that's how they go through this process of determining whether or not they're going to announce it as a small business and compete it among small businesses, or are they just going to go full and open. So you can use this document to respond to that and respond to requests for information. Here's some of the core elements. Title is important, core data, company data, your financial capacity if you're in construction. Bonding is important for a contracting officer to know what your limits are. That way, if you are within the limits that they're looking for, they can directly reach out to you. We're not using so much the DUNS number anymore. It's still being used, but we're using the UEI. Is it what it's called, right? UEI, unique identified. The UE. Okay, so it's a different number, but it's taken the place of the DUNS. So, add your NAICS code. If you have past performance, this is important because the government's always looking for past performance. If you don't have past performance, there are ways for you to gain that experience. Right now, the SBA put together a pilot program where if you do business, in other words, if you get subcontracting work from a prime that is performing on a federal government contract, they're going to now add you to a database, okay, and evaluate your performance. And that performance now will be available to contracting officers to look at. That wasn't available before. So if you didn't have the past performance, even if you had past performance as a subcontractor, it wasn't counting because the federal agencies didn't have access to it unless you strictly said, oh, yes, I was performing on this contract and I have a written evaluation or something to that extent. So now we have this pilot program where the prime contractors are going to rate your performance, and it's going to go into this database that the federal agencies have access to, okay? So that might transition to past performance, and you might get that past performance that you need in that way. Another way is to joint venture with another small business. So if you see a large contract that you by yourself can't perform, then find another small business that you can partner with. Form a joint venture. Okay, in a joint venture, the government is supposed to look at that joint venture with the expertise and the technical capacity of both companies, okay, if it's two, because it could be more than two, it could be 3 or 4. Okay, but again, joint venture is just another vehicle for you to enhance your capabilities by adding other small businesses.
How do you get in the pilot program?
You don't get in the pilot program. So what you have to do is once you get a subcontract by a prime contractor, meaning either a large business or a small business who has gotten an award over $600,000, they have to submit a subcontracting plan. And so if you do sub work for one of those prime contractors, they have to enter your performance in that system. Okay?
So on
Yes.
the Duns and Bradstreet, you said that you're getting away from that and just using the others.
Correct.
So if you're new, starting out, you need to still do the Dun and Bradstreet?
I believe you don't need the Dun & Bradstreet anymore, right? To register?
To register?
Yeah.
Well, those things are going away. Still out there. It's now going to be.
So what happens is Dun & Bradstreet is a private organization. It's not going to go away in the sense that, Dun & Bradstreet is still going to be doing what they do. The government is not going to use the Dun & Bradstreet number anymore. They're going to use the UE, the one that he was talking about. So when you get into SAM, it's going to ask you for that number. If you don't have it, you'll go through the process of applying. Somebody here said they went through the SAM. Did somebody here go through SAM already? Did it ask you for a UIE number? UEI? Right? Okay. So you're going to go through that process to get that number.
So what's UIE?
It stands for Unique ID Number, something like that. There you go. Unique There you go. It's just an identifier number. It's going to take the place of the DUNS number. So it'll be a number. You'll see it right on the page because it takes you through the process. I think that's the first step. It's going to ask you if you have a number, and if not, it'll take you to the link to apply. I believe that's how it goes. All right, so let's move on from this one.
Real quick,
Yeah.
can you go back one?
Sure.
The socioeconomic certifications.
Uh-huh.
You get that through the SBA?
You get those through the SBA. Those are the 5 ones that I was talking about earlier. Small business, women-owned, hub zone, small disadvantaged business, which includes the 8A, and service disabled veteran.
How long does it take to get those certifications?
If it's the women-owned, and if it's the 8A, by law, it shouldn't be more than 120 days. Now, you're going to hear horror stories of people that say, well, it took me 2 years. Well, it took me 1.5 years. But I've also seen people that say it took me 30 days. What's the difference? What makes your application be processed faster? Number one, if you have a simpler structure, okay? Because when you have businesses that have ownership interest in another company, or their company owns another company, the more complicated your business structure, the longer it's going to take the SBA. Because SBA is trying to rule out certain things like whether one of the entities or one of the owners of the entity might potentially have control of your business, et cetera, et cetera. It gets really complicated. And the more complicated your business is, the longer it's going to take
And
you.
the 8 days, similar.
Same thing, too. It's 120 days, but you'll hear those horror stories again. Because it just depends how, and then it depends, too, if you're able to, I'll give you an example, and I don't want to spend too much time here. Both certifications state that you have to dedicate full-time devotion to the business. That means that you can't have an outside employment. You can't be involved in another, but there are a lot of people, right, that do it. I mean, it makes sense. So the SBA says, okay, then you have to submit justification, but that's not in the application. It doesn't say that, okay? If you come and talk to me, I'll say, and I'm reviewing your application, or you work with one of my employees, we're going to tell you, okay, you're working outside, you're going to have to submit a justification. Don't wait for the SBA, because what's going to happen is they're going to get your application. They notice that you have outside employment because they're seeing your W-2,
Right.
and then they're going to say, okay, stop the clock. We need to clarify this information because we think he's not going to qualify. So they're going to send you, they're going to say, okay, you have outside employment, you don't appear to move, you don't appear to qualify based on this. Can you give us more information on this? So before they do that, just do it yourself. Provide them justification. My outside employment does not affect the work that I do with the company for this reason. Okay? But again, sometimes you don't know that, and a lot of small businesses don't know that because you're not like me, the ins and outs, and I understand what the SBA is looking for. This is the program I run and breathe. So usually when people meet with us or when we do workshops, like we just recently had one that took 4 days, we will Sure, absolutely. Yes, mostly we're doing virtual calls right now because most of us are working still from home. But below my signature block, I have a book an appointment with me link. Anyone can book an appointment. You have access to my calendar. So the next available, you can certainly book. And I do it in increments of 30 minutes, but if you think you're going to need more, just book two appointments. Go to my signature block. I'm going to give you my email address, which is Nancy, my first name, period, Alvarez, ALVAREZ, at sba.gov. And just let me know, and I'll send you back an email with, again, the link at the bottom that says book an appointment with me. Yes. Service disabled, veteran owned? Yes. If you have questions with that and you want to book an appointment with me as well, yes. And I have selections. So what I've done, I've created categories. So if you want help with the SDV or your counseling is regarding the SDV certification, just select that. If it's, there's many different categories, and so I usually have an idea, for example, if it's 8A and we're going to do a walkthrough, then I'm going to need more than 30 minutes. But if it's just an overview and some questions you might have on the 8A program, then, you can go ahead and select, and it's going to be 30 minutes, so. Service disabled, veteran owned? Yes. If you have questions with that and you want to book an appointment with me as well, yes. And I have selections. So what I've done, I've created categories. So if you want help with the SDV or your counseling is regarding the SDV certification, just select that. If it's, there's many different categories. And so I usually have an idea, for example, if it's 8A and we're going to do a walkthrough, then I'm going to need more than 30 minutes. But if it's just an overview and some questions you might have on the 8A program, then, you can go ahead and select, and it's going to be 30 minutes. So.
How far out are your appointments booked?
Right now, October, the month of September, this is the close of the fiscal year for us. And I'm working even over my 8 hours just to, kind of keep up. So, but October, things start opening up, yeah. It's the beginning of the fiscal year for the federal government. So things slow down significantly.
What's your email again, please?
Nancy, Nancy, period, Alvarez, ALV as in Victor, A as in Apple, REZ, at sba.gov. And I think I have it too on the end of the slide. So if you didn't catch it, you'll take a picture at the end. Keys to a successful meeting, again, be prepared, do your homework, understand what the agency is looking for, okay, and be prepared to share that information with the agency. Conduct a pre-meeting research. Again, this is just basically look at the agency, what they purchased in the past, and what they potentially have in the future. If it aligns with what you have to offer and what you're interested in offering the agency, make a note of that and get ready to discuss that with the agency. And then do your post after your meeting. If you promise something, follow up, okay? If you committed to providing something, whether that was additional information, follow up with the agency, send them a thank you note, okay? These are all going to be very helpful. Understanding the fiscal year, you just heard me talk about this is a crazy month for all of us. Albert laughs because it is true. I mean, the month of, it starts for us, it starts in August. August and September are just awful. Why? Because the government is buying. They're trying to use up all the funds they have. And so what happens is they don't have enough time to announce. So usually the companies that are going to get the work are usually, let's say, companies that are in the 8A program. Why? Because the 8A program offers a provision where the agency doesn't have to announce. It doesn't have to make a public announcement of something that it wants to buy or acquire. And since they don't want to lose that money, they're going to reach out to the 8A firms. This is what I'm looking for. Do you have this to offer? And that's how potentially in the 8A program, you get a lot of sole source towards the end of the fiscal year. Unfortunately for me, I end up in the office trying to process all these offers that are coming in because every agency wants to exhaust their funds before they, the fiscal year runs, and then they end up losing that money because they can't use it for the next fiscal year. So that's what happened. Understand that and take advantage of that. And then what I do is I encourage you to divide the quarters, okay, in the year, and then use the first quarter to kind of raise awareness and build relationships. Send them emails. Stay in touch with them. Yes.
Not to interrupt, but are you saying A or?
8, number 8, alpha letter, 8. It's called it's 8A based on the Small Business Act. So if you look at the Small Business Act, Section 8, alpha letter A, you're going to get the program. That's where it starts talking about the program. But anyway, first quarter, second quarter, or third quarter, lead generation, campaign, and respond. Okay? And then for the fourth quarter, we're now on the fourth quarter, okay, last minute offer and awareness campaign. This is where you want to touch base again with the agencies, because this is when they're running out of money and you want to catch them when they're really desperate. Okay?
How did you become qualified for the EA?
So yeah, it's a lending criteria. You have to meet the socioeconomic disadvantage criteria. Your business has to be small. I mean, it's a little late, but make an appointment with me and I'll be more than happy to go over it with you. Sure. Yes, we can't charge. Yes, and there's also, we put together like twice a year, what's called a walkthrough, 8A application walkthrough. It is 5 different sessions, so once a week for 3 hours, and we'll take you through the entire application, okay? So, yeah, and it's free. There is no cost.
Oh, how do you apply for this as well? Any call application? Just schedule a call with you?
Yes, well, I don't do it. One of my staffers does. His name is Sean Smith. So if you call the office, just ask to speak to Sean Smith, and he'll tell you when his next one is. Okay, but at least it's great, because if you go to someone and you pay someone for the application, the 8A application, they charge between $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 to have that application. Yep, it's a lot of money. And you can do it yourself. I tell people all the time. I mean, I know for me it's easy because but you have people that you can ask. You can call the SBA and say, what does this mean? We can't do the application for you, but we certainly can answer questions where, if you're in doubt what the SBA is looking for, we can answer that. Yeah. Speak the government language. You hear us use a lot of the acronyms all the time. Just familiarize yourself with whatever the government uses for your industry, because sometimes it's technical. Okay, so if you're in a very technical industry, just make sure that you understand government's lingo. How to find decision makers. Again, forecast is a great way. Call and make an appointment. Okay, the forecast will give you the name, contact information, email address for whoever is responsible for buying. Also, if you go to sam.gov, to the opportunities that are coming up, usually it'll have a person's name and phone number. Now, if it's an active solicitation, don't call them. They're not going to answer the phone to respond to anything related to that particular solicitation, because they can't do that, okay? But otherwise, you can reach out. Network and contact a small business specialist. Every year we have a major procurement conference here in Arlington called the GPC Government Procurement Conference. And we have contracting officers that come there, and the purpose for the reason to be there is to meet small businesses. So it's a great way for small businesses to connect with local federal agencies that are buying. Okay. It's usually the month of August. Call PTAC, they're responsible for that. Cross Timbers, yeah, they're responsible for putting it together. And then, don't be shy. Respond to the invitation to bid. Don't shy away from it. If you don't get the first few ones, that's okay. They serve as practice for you to understand how to respond to a solicitation. And if you get tied and you're not sure, again, SBA has classes on that you can participate, and we'll take you through the process of, responding to a solicitation. Prime and contracting opportunity, I don't want to cover a lot here other than, our programs are designed for you to be the small business prime. That's what we want you to do, right? Because primes are making the most money. Once you start entering into sub-agreements, then you're going to make less, because your prime is going to make most or the bulk of the profits, and then the remaining goes to the... So, understand these and understand that you can engage in a subcontracting relationship if you don't have that past performance and you're trying to build, okay? Because these prime contractors need to do business with small business, yes.
So, how do we keep the prime contractor from stealing, just like going to the government website themselves? And if we're trying to broker a deal that they didn't know about?
No, that's a great question. First of all, most prime contractors are large contractors, so they can't bid in the small business arena. So our set-aside programs are designed just for small businesses to compete. We keep the large businesses out. So what we do is we incentivize prime contractors to award to small businesses, and they get credit in exchange. So a prime contractor is evaluated on how well they execute their subcontracting plan. So they tell the government, this is what I'm going to sub to small businesses. This is what I'm going to sub to women-owned, to HUB-zone, et cetera. And depending on how well they perform, they get rated. And the next time they submit on a bid, and trust me, these large prime contractors, they're going for billions of dollar contracts. So they're really not interested in competing with a small business because these are just, too small of a projects for them. But they are interested in doing business with you. So, how do you do it with them? You can find them when you go to Sam's. Does Sam still have where they can list themselves as interest? Yes. So the old, and I'm going back to the old system, it used to be PDS. I know that there was an area there where if you were a small business and you wanted to do business with a prime, you can list yourself. But he's saying that it's still available under the new SAM system. So you can list yourself. You can also find it in the research that I spoke earlier that says who has an award. It'll give you the prime contractor, and you can find their contact information in there as well. Okay, and you can contact them. So lots of ways of getting this information. Consider subcontracting again. You're going to build your past performance, and if you can't use a joint venture or participate in a mentor-protege. Teaming agreement usually are when you're going to be the prime and you want to commit another small business. You can enter a teaming agreement with that small business, okay, to perform on the contract. Usually in that scenario, you would have the capabilities to be awarded the contract as a prime, and you're just showing the agency or committing to the subcontractor at a goodwill that you're going to do work with them, okay? The Mentor Protege program, this is an excellent program that eventually, it came out of the 8A program, and now all small businesses can apply for it. And this is, the strategy of this program is for you to team up with a large business that can train you, right? That can provide you the business development and show you the rope ins and outs of how to run your business or how to do business with the federal government. What do they receive in exchange? They can do a joint venture with you, okay? And they can pursue the small business set-aside contracts with you. They can't do it without you. So what this program does is the SBA says, in exchange for assisting our small businesses, we're going to waive your size. You can compete now in the small business arena as long as you're doing it with your small business protege. So it's just an incentive. Now, Department of Defense has a mentor protege program where Department of Defense pays the mentor. SBA does not pay the mentor, but we allow them to pursue small business set-aside contracting opportunities as long as they're partnering with you.
And you have to find the mentor protege program on SBA as well?
It's on our website, yes. It's on our website. We won't help you find a mentor. That's on you, because usually it's industry-based, and you know your industry better. So you know who probably is a big business in your industry, and if not, you can find that when you're doing your research. Okay, but it's an excellent program. How it goes? So I'm near my end. Here are all our resource partners, and I think Verna was mentioning earlier, NCT, RCA, North Central Texas Regional Certification Agency. They can help you with local certifications. One thing that I didn't say here that I probably should have started off with, which is the biggest confusion for small businesses when they want to get certified, which certification? So I have a matrix where it divides the certification at the state, local, federal government. The first question you need to ask yourself is, who's going to be my potential customer? Is it going to be the local government? Is it going to be the federal government? Is it going to be corporate America? And then you look at the spreadsheet and it will tell you what agencies or what certifications you would need for that level of contracting. So for the federal government, the only certifications we will accept are the 5 that I mentioned earlier. Small business, women-owned, hub zone, small disadvantaged business, and the service disabled veteran owned. Those are the only 5 federal, okay? And certainly procurement assistance, we do have PTAC, not PTAC, we have procurement center representatives. These are SBA personnel who negotiate the goals with the federal agencies. You can reach out to them if you want information on what agency potentially buys your product, or if you want them to assist you connecting with an agency. PTAC, which we already mentioned. Marketing resources, these are some of the websites. If you want, I'll share the presentation with Verna, and she can send it to all of you, and then you can click on the link and get access. If not, just Google the title, and you'll get it in Google. Other resources I mentioned earlier, USA Spending, GSA Subcontracting Directory. You still have your subcontracting directory, right? Okay, so, and I'm pretty sure you're going to cover that. So he'll be covering some of this information, and then I don't have the link for DoD Prime Contracting Directory, but certainly you can Google that, and it'll take you to the directory. You'll find some opportunities there with some of the primes. So this is particularly for subcontracting opportunities. And then GSA, and I'm not going to talk much about GSA because I know Alvarez does a fantastic job doing that. So your first step, if you're interested, is just get certified or just get registered in SAM. First thing you're going to do when you register in SAM, you can self-certify yourself as a small business. That opens the door for you to start competing at the small business level, okay? Because the other certifications are going to take you a little bit longer. Get to work and submit your bids. Don't be afraid, find a promising opportunity, send a solicitation. If you don't get it, request a debriefing. The agencies can tell you where you were lacking. That'll help you prepare for your next one. And then, like I said, request debriefing, okay? The key here is to learn till you're able to get in there and feel comfortable and submit a solicitation. Before you know it, you'll get awarded your first contract. There's my email address and my contact information. Again, you just send me an email that you want to book an appointment with me. I will send you back an email that'll have a link, and you can access my calendar, and the next available, you can book it. So are there any questions for me? No, I covered a lot. But again, monthly, we do the monthly certification the first Wednesday of every month from 10 to 12. We're on Eventbrite, okay, and it's free. We cover all 5 certifications, okay? First Wednesday of every month. Well, they're virtual. They're virtual. So that's the beauty of it. You can email me, of course. Yes. Yes. All right. So, Albert, it's all yours. Oh, I'm listening. Go ahead. You mean in the classes, or you're talking about the walkthrough for the 8A, or you're talking about? Yes, we go over the eligibility criteria, the benefits, and the process for applying. Okay? Oh, we got one more question. Yeah, let's see if I can. Oh, okay, okay. Yes, I can send you the presentation, and she can share it with you, absolutely. Okay? All righty. You're welcome.